Hi, I wanted to take this time to show everyone uh, a tool that I've created, and it was inspired by the Eureka package from the Rust programming language. And this Eureka package is essentially a CLI tool for users to use to jot their ideas down quickly without leaving the terminal. And the tool will automatically save the ideas that the user has jotted down into GitHub. And that's nice because this is a very quick, handy way to automate those processes. So you wouldn't have to, like, if you on like a Windows or Mac machine, you would have to open up like um, Notepad or some text editor, write down your ideas, save them, save them. Not only you have to save them, you have to save it to a location. So there's a lot of clicking. This one, you configure everything beforehand, and then you just run the program from there on out, and then it'll do all the saving for you. So very handy. So to get started, you don't have to do this, but of course you would have to make the changes yourself because if you clone this repo, you will need to install this if you're not going to change anything else here, because I I do take your you need a GitHub API token. So and I store that in a .env file, and you need this package in order for the program to recognize where that where the .env file is. And these two are required because you need this one to uh, interact with the GitHub API. This is pretty much a GitHub API client for .NET developers, and this is system.command line is Microsoft's API for interacting with for developing CLI apps, and it is currently still in beta at the time of this recording. And so here we have a sample command that we can run for this program. So you would do .NET run, the name of your repo, your GitHub username, and this is optional. Yeah, but yeah, you can call it whatever you want, but you don't have to write anything. You don't have to have this piece altogether. And I'll go through all the other commands below. So in our main here, we make this call so that it looks for the env file in this project. We create our arguments. This is what I mentioned before, these arguments right here. So we have the repo path, okay? And so you can choose any path you want. In this case, if you don't choose a repo path, it'll default to this one. Now, I am assuming for now that you're using like a Unix-like operating system like Mac or Linux. But eventually, I might also include Windows users as well. Or you can clone my project. You can add it yourself and then go from there. Yeah. But yeah. So next we have private. So this one you can, if you have it, then it's private. If you just have dash dash private in here, then it will be a private repository on your GitHub account. Otherwise, it's if you don't have it, then it's public. And repo name, as we saw before, you need this argument to give the name of your repo. Um, and username, this is your GitHub username. Editor, so this one, so in on Linux, and I think in Mac as well, there's a default uh, environment variable. It's called oops, it's called $editor. And I think by default for like, let's say on a Linux machine, it's um, I think it's VI or Vim. Uh, yeah, so that's what this argument takes advantage of. Um, if you like, if you if you don't pass in this flag, then it'll go ahead and take whatever you have for in that environment variable. Yeah, and if you don't have anything in that, if you don't have that environment variable set, then we will go ahead and take uh, Visual Studio Code. So we will open up Visual Studio Code as the editor that you can enter your ideas in. So let's see, yeah. And next we have file name, as I mentioned before. This is, you don't have to have this. Um, it is optional. And this one is view. You don't have to have this for creating new ideas. This flag is just so that if you have the flag, then we'll just show everything that all the ideas that you've created in the past that are currently in your remote repository. So that should be all. That's pretty much all for arguments. Next is just simply adding those options that option objects that we created earlier into the root command so that we can run it later. Yeah. And then here we have set handler. So uh, the arguments here in this function, uh, they have to match, like order does matter. They have to match the arguments, the number of arguments that you put here. And of course, the names here don't have to be the same as here. It's just this variable comes from up here, and et cetera, et cetera. So these are your options that we created earlier, the arguments. And then it would correspond with, so this first argument here would correspond with this one, and then this one with the second one, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, and so if you decide to pass in the view flag when you run the program, it'll just call this method and it will show all the ideas, and then that's it. Now, otherwise, we can go ahead and uh, open up the notepad for you so that you can jot your ideas down. And so that's the main method. And so let me go over the two methods here. So first is show ideas. So this is just read only. We grab our access token. Now this is going to be from my .env file, and then we create our GitHub client, and then we check if it exists in the remote. If we check, let me see here. Yeah, we check if the repository by this name exists in the repo, and if it doesn't, then we can continue. No, if it does, sorry, if it does exist, then we can continue. So then we get all the contents from that repo, and then we can loop over it and then print them out one by one. So that's the showing your ideas method. And then here is if you want to create a new idea. So just like before, we need to get our GitHub API token, and then we create our GitHub client, and then we create our file path, file name, and full path to file. So this is going to be used for creating your local repo if it doesn't exist already, and then changing directory like at runtime to get to that directory so that we can push, so that we can make get commands to it later on. So yeah, if the file path doesn't exist, we go ahead and create it, and then we change directory at runtime to that file path, and then just like before, we need to check whether it exists or not. And if it doesn't exist, we'll go ahead, create a new repository using the GitHub client, and then we would have to link it. We would have to link it to our local repository. And once all that's taken care of, we can start the process, which is, and you can do so like this in C#. And this is very important. You have to have this to be true. And then after that, you after that we would create our watcher, and this is what will wait for you to save changes in your file. So when you run the program and then you configure, where your local repo is and where you want to open up a file, like which folder you want to open up your file in. Uh, and then once that file is open by the program, uh, the program's going to watch for it. And so that's when you write your ideas down, and then when you're done, you save the file. Once you save the file, uh, the watcher will know, and it will stop blocking the code execution. It will dispose of the watcher object, and then we can continue. So that means you saved your file, and then that way we can adequately um, we can then properly uh, then make our git commands to push those changes to the remote. So yeah, and then that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of the program. And then this is just the method that I used earlier to check if the repository exists. So yeah, and when I tested it out, everything seemed to be working. But if you find any errors, please let me know down in the comments below. And thank you for watching, and have a great day. So let me go ahead and demo what I was talking about earlier. So I'm going to run this command, but before I do, let me just make sure that to do a refresh on this testing dir repo. So this is the remote repo of testing dir, and I do have a local repo of this as well. In fact, you have to. So there is no testing. There's no file name named testing. So it's okay that I have it here. I mean, this is just the proof of that it does work. And soon, when I run this, you'll be able to see testing in the remote here. So let me go ahead and run the program. Soon, yeah, okay, there we go. The text editor of my choice. In this case, I chose NeoVim. I can go ahead and say something like this is a test. And right now, the file system watcher is playing its role right now. So if I save the program, it'll continue the execution of the program to committing and pushing my changes that it just made to the remote repo. So now if I go back here and I refresh, we should be able to see, there it is. So if I open it, this is a test. This is exactly what I was typing in the terminal earlier. So now you see it's pretty powerful and it's pretty handy, especially because you wouldn't have to do it the traditional way. You can just run a program like this, pass it the arguments, and pretty much jot your ideas down, save them in a secure location that way. Uh, it's a great, nice little automation tool there. So yeah, so that's all. Any questions, comments, leave them down below, and please like and share this video if you found it helpful, and be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate your help. Thank you so much, and have a great day.